Welcome to Audio Products Podcast. We are meeting with pro audio industry veterans, founders, product managers, UX designers, to learn how they build and manage the products we all love. You will get tips how to navigate your career in audio and how to develop a successful audio product. From musical instruments through audio plugins and gaming middleware up to music distribution platforms or consumer electronics like headphones, mics, and even automotive speaker systems. Enjoy. Hey Tobias, how are you doing?
Hey Wojciech, I'm good. How are you?
I'm hot, as you mentioned, right? It's pretty hot here. I think it's the same in Amsterdam, isn't it?
It's quite unbearable some days, up in the 30s, and in new apartments with way too much insulation. It's tough.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Thank you very much for joining the show. And what I would like to start with is actually to mention that Moonbase, the company that you funded, sort of agreed to become the sponsor of the upcoming Audio Product Jam in September after the holiday. So maybe there will be a bit bearable, like a more bearable temperature, right? After the summer. But thank you very much for that, man. I really appreciate it. We host these events for a long time, and it's always like they are non-commercial. And I mean, community always people ask me, hey Wojciech, when can we organize another one? So, and it's still, doing this sort of aside. So yeah, support like yours is really really great. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. I think it's quite important to support the community, and now I think we do it quite a lot. We sponsor the Berlin Audio Developer Meetup. We started the one here in Amsterdam. Now we're sponsoring you guys in Stockholm, and hopefully some more events in the future. I think it's really important to build a strong audio development community and bring together some people, because that's where the best ideas form and the best conversations are had.
Yeah, exactly. So who sponsors? So can you tell a little about yourself and and the company? We'll actually unpack and talk a lot of more about Moonbase. And I mean, I'm super curious about. I mean, when we first met, I loved your story so much, and I think we had a cool vibe. So I was very eager to know more. And I'm always curious about the founder stories. Being founder who failed before, but also appreciate so much entrepreneurship. It's always so great to really have this unfiltered stories, how things came to life, and how it is to actually run this company, and especially that what you do is so unique, and there is obviously plenty of, market is super saturated, and there is so many everything is already there, and when you gave me demo last time, I said, wow, that's something that's really give value to people, right? So well, I'm Tobias. I'm the founder of Moonbase, or one of the founders anyways. I have a co-founder with me as well, and I'm from a very pure engineering background, really. I've been working for small companies and large companies, doing more and more startup things over the years. But I think this all started during the pandemic, where I had a close friend of mine, and he came to me and asked me hey, we built this plugin. We need a website. Can you build us a website? And as you know, with any software projects, it starts off simple. It's just a simple project, just a website. And then it escalates from there, And so over the years, I did a lot of freelancing for a bunch of audio companies, just on the side, building e-commerce solutions, building their licensing solutions, because, licensing solutions in particular, I think half of all audio developers build that in-house and run their own thing. But over the years, as we sort of scaled these companies and really grew them, we ran into so many pains, and the pains were always the same. Across every single audio company I've helped, it was the exact same pains. How do you connect these different systems that you've duct taped together? And out of that came Moonbase. So we just said, okay, let's build it properly now. Like, let's build it for everyone, because there is this gap in the market here where like no one is really having a bundled offering that can take someone from having an idea, like having a plugin, to actually selling with a thought through, opinionated setup. Because that's ultimately what we are, like we've taken all the best experiences from the last 6 years and we built a solution that sort of handles those cases really well.
So that was like your first audio experience? You didn't work in any audio company before?
No, that's a bit hard for me sometimes. I feel like such an imposter, when I travel to NAMM and Superbooth and all of these audio developer meetups. And, over the years, I'm slowly learning more and more audio related stuff, but I'm from an engineering background. So I'm still trying to fit in and
No, I mean, by any means, it's not I know, I also I do have some years of experience already, but, I'm meeting like people who have 30, 40 years of experience, working their whole entire life in the music business. It's sometimes like intimidating to me. And especially when academy sort of grew to be like also all around the place and people just coming, and to those events and the podcast, etc., and sometimes say, wow, it's so, so rewarding because I always make jokes. The podcast is just like a free, like a free course for me, because over the years I can, sort of interview the most experienced and, people, also like people who created some amazing products and companies. So it's, usually don't have a chance to talk to them and sit down about, like entrepreneurship and marketing and engineering, etc. Yeah. So that's a cool thing.
Yeah. But that's also the best part about this audio space, right? There are so many founders. Like this indie spirit that you find here, it's stronger than most other industries, I feel like. And that's also what we are targeting, right? Like we're really trying to build tools to empower developers and product engineers and everyone to actually go take that step from an idea to actual commercial success and running a business, because it's hard. It takes a lot, but so many are actually doing it. They have the balls to do it. And that's nice.
Yeah, I mean, I know what you mean. I still love audio industry mostly for this. First of all, for not blindly following the, like a Silicon Valley mindset, that you always need to grow, unicorn, so that's, I think, like still so fresh that you have companies, especially plugin companies, right? So they stay small and they deliberately focus on and some of them really established brands, like, I don't know, Oxand, right? I met Hannes 2 years ago and at Superbooth, and because I wanted to ask him to join the podcast, I told him, hey, can you tell me a little bit? And we're like 17 or 20 and we don't want to actually grow bigger, maybe in the future, but it's just like organic growth, right? It's not like, money for, money. That's, what we are looking for. So that's, I think, the important part. And also the other part is that it's still a lot of it's just partialized. There is not like one big conglomerate owning everything. Well, it happens a little bit. I can see lately, right? Some of the big, I don't know, private equities and some obviously a large, even music conglomerates like in music. But yeah, there is actually a new wave of entrepreneurs. And that's also what I wanted for us to actually say this on the record, because but I think Moonbase and Audio Pro Code Academy is actually, the goal is actually to help funders and actually help enable the new wave of entrepreneurship, right? And that's always my big goal when I see a great startup. And I'm always saying, hey, how can we help? Can we promote? Can we just give you, a little bit of the boost, right? Because I strongly believe we need more independent entrepreneurs, right? Not only owned by some,
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's yeah, like you said, that's what we're trying to accomplish as well. And I think the fact that music and audio tech is, at the end of the day, I kind of view it as fashion, even if you have very big enterprises that focus a lot on building audio software, building plugins, building whatever. it's still fashion, and trends change, tastes change. You can come up with totally new genres over the years, and then you can create tools around those to actually produce that. Like, I've seen a lot of plugins over the last years. We help a lot of companies sell different things, and I'm still surprised about the creativity of people just finding brand new ways to inject new ideas into workflows and come up with totally new ways to do things. And I think that's not going to stop. And I think that's really the unique part that really enables indies to thrive.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. I mean, let's park it, because I'm very curious about what you mentioned. Sometimes I get this fatigue, like a gear, like a acquisition syndrome kind of fatigue. But, what you mentioned right now helps me to sort of, maybe there is more than, of course, I can still see some, amazing companies and plugins, but you're probably more entitled to speak about it. And yeah, you can maybe inspire me. But coming back to Moonbase, and you mentioned, like a building website and, sort of like integrating solutions that are duct taped at the early stage, so can you tell a little, I would like to, without giving a demo, because some people are listening, not watching, give a picture or what Moonbase does, and how you actually help the funders, right? What are those challenges that you're addressing, right? So if you could, and maybe a little bit like following our early conversations, because you gave me all this and website and this, so it was like a very informative.
I think a lot of developers and a lot of people who build audio companies start out the same, like you need, practically in my view, you need three big pieces to run an audio business, right? You need some sort of e-commerce to actually sell your thing with some payment solution built in. You need a licensing solution to have some sort of DRM, so you know who owns what and can actually integrate that into plugins. And binding it all together, you need some sort of marketing platform to sort of send a newsletter, send emails, because long-term emails are maybe the most effective way to run your business and promote sales. And so you have these three big pieces, and I think many, they might just jump on Shopify, for example, and then you need an app to connect with your licensing system, and you need an app for the marketing, and you need multiple apps to do different things, and it just becomes a sort of a duct taped mess of things. Because what we found over the years and sort of the experiments that we ran, the things that we tried, really necessitated that all of these three systems were really tightly integrated. Like for us, it was really important to say, hey, our e-commerce and payment solution needs to know about the licenses that we have, because we want to offer loyalty pricing, or we want to do rent to own. And then you need, subscriptions that convert licenses. Like it's a very tight integration. So those two need to be really connected. And then your marketing suite, for us to like really send personalized emails, to send offers to the relevant users, to automatically follow up people who start a trial, then your marketing system needs to be really connected to your licensing system. And that's also pain, that's also more duct tape, and it's just really frustrating to deal with
kind
that.
of like integrations, exactly. APIs, and I can see it can also not only be pain in the ass, but it can also be expensive, right? Because then you have a MailChimp, and you have blah, and and not some of those you can do this, but you can't do this, and you end up hiring an engineer who can actually do some custom.
It's crazy. It's just how much people are paying for Shopify apps just to deliver a license key. It's really crazy. It's really crazy. And so that's the pains we had over the years, and that's what, way back when I freelanced, I built custom solutions for all of this, like I built these hacky integrations to push a bunch of data over. We saw what worked over the years, these loyalty pricing tricks that we did, being able to sell, complete bundles of products without having it be a bad deal. All of these things were such big pains, but we figured if we just build it, then we can actually solve it. And that was sort of a daunting task. We started just with a licensing system that was really tightly integrated into some off-the-shelf marketing tools. And then we just expanded from there, because like I said, the real magic is really when your payment and e-commerce system can present a storefront that is unique to the user, that can sort of mix and match, showcase the products that are most relevant for them, show them exclusive pricing based on what they already own, like have some incentives for them to keep supporting you. Because that's maybe one of the biggest takeaways and what I tell people the most. If you want to run a sort of successful and sustainable plugin company today, one of the best ways to do that is to create a fan base. Like, make your customers love you. That's really the best way to let them buy your next plugin and really follow your journey, because that's what defines a lot of plugin companies, their taste, their twist on something. Like, how can you keep that going and have the tools to support that in terms of pricing and marketing and everything else,
and branding as well, right? I mean, that's I mean, one of these companies that I admire so much for this artwork and branding is Safari Audio, right? And Noam, and that's just, I'm always like say, what was this amazing idea to create this like artwork, and everything is right now. They have a podcast which is called like a Studio, I think Studio Animals, etc. It's all so nicely put together, right? Even, the biggest minds in the industry, say, it's so cool, right? And you turn simple compressor into, I don't know, something like which is so cool and pleasant, and it's just this cool vibe. But so, listen, you mentioned that the licensing was like a first, I don't know, like a version MVP, right? And then you started from there. So that was the major pain. So when was it? Was you say something like in the pandemic?
So I built the custom licensing system while I was freelancing. So that was sort of the version 0 of the licensing system. And we went through some iterations on that, sort of refined the user experience and just made sure that we had a really smooth activation process. Like, user experience should really be on the top of the list because, like you say, it's a very saturated market. You don't want to stand out by offering a bad user experience. Like, you really want to have a good solid flow. So that was where we started, and I sort of made a version 2 of that old system, and that was what started Moonbase to begin with. Just like I said, then we built all of these integrations with email platforms immediately. So that's where it started. And so I still sort of feel sometimes that Moonbase at its core, it's a licensing platform, but we also do payments and marketing integrations. And like, we build on top of that, but we still sort of go back to that point, like, we understand the user, we understand what they own or what they have tried, and we can do a lot of stuff with that.
But I think, you presented this to me last time, but I think you mentioned here in this conversation as well that there are some specific things related to audio industry that are unique, like the rent to own, etc. Not like a biggest love for subscription. So this all has to be, I think, very tight, like a bundling, but also bundling. And I mean, I'm making like a promotion here. I mean, I really love this feature a lot. You remember what, it's just like a bundle minus what you already own, so you don't have to like buy 20 times the same plugin. And I don't want to again blast big companies, but I own so many like useless software products that I cannot like give to anyone because that was part of the bundle. But I mean, you cannot even like, I would give it for free to somebody, right? Because they sell on you in such a, I would say, not most friendly, user-friendly way. So I mean, when I saw that you can like deduct already plugins that you own, make some kind of bundle, I say, that's you solved the real problem, of users.
And that's what really surprised me way back then, because before we had Moonbase, then we hacked this to work with off-the-shelf payment providers, and it was just astounded me how difficult it would be, because obviously when you pick an off-the-shelf payment provider and try to like duct tape it together, they're not going to know what the customer owns. So when we sell a bundle through Moonbase, we can look at them in the checkout process and say, hey, you already own some of these products in this bundle. Let's take them out and reduce the price accordingly. So you still get the bundle discount, but only on the stuff that you don't own. And like I said, we tried this with off-the-shelf payment providers before. I think at some point for when we built Black Salt Audio, we had like an Excel sheet of bundles with different combinations. And I think we were over 100 different bundle combinations to satisfy all the different bundles we wanted to sell. And it was just such a pain to manage and actually make that work in a smooth way. So those are some of the things that we do now, like, okay, partial bundles, that's one thing because we understand the user, but also like these loyalty discounts, like it's very easy for us to say, hey, based on what you already own, here's an upgrade discount for you because you've already supported us, or we're launching a new product, or, any of these reasons why you want to have a sort of a cross-grade or upgrade discount. But it's this exact same problem, like your e-commerce solution, your payment provider needs to intimately know who your customers are and what they currently own.
Gotcha. So listen, if I can just go a bit deeper now into instead of your entrepreneurial journey, you mentioned there is two of you, right? There is also your co-founder. So that, and you have the engineering background. So is he more like a marketing, sales person, or you're both like engineers?
No, he's a pure finance person because at the end of the day, Moonbase, we are a merchant of record. So we handle all sales tax for all of our merchants. And that's a little bit painful. That's a little bit painful, but that's also why, we are not as cheap as just, any payment provider. So we handle all the legal compliance bits. So that's what I was looking for in a co-founder. I had to find someone who could help me take care of that specifically. Not to mention that, we have quite a complicated accounting, accounting regulations around us, we need to account for all the sales, but now we're also expanding to the US. So we'll have a US subsidiary handling some sales. So there's a lot of complexity in what we do that I need a co-founder for, but it's just the two of us. We have a bunch of freelancers working for us here and there when we need help with something. We had a redesigned website earlier this year that I'm super happy with the design of that. So we had an actual, designer from the audio space design us our website. So I think that really fits what we're trying to target. But yeah, it's just the two of us, bootstrapped, trying to build a sustainable, profitable company. And
bootstrap.
Yeah,
that's the
doing it the hard way.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a bootstrap guy. I strongly believe, and I actually experienced this too in I owned a startup, but it's like a work for startup when there is one thing is obviously like a VC money. So there is obviously this, at least it boosts the, a focus on the market. But I also was part of the teams that took the a public grants, a European Union grants, and there is currently it's stopped, but in the past, you could get really good R&D product development grants especially in the, let's say, newer part of EU, Central European countries. But there is so much bureaucracy, around it that you end up making sure that you follow the project rather than focus on the clients. And lean startup, it's just a kind of Bible for me, entrepreneurial Bible, so a be focused, a short feedback loop, work with the customers directly as fast as possible, right? That was always kind of my approach, and whatever sort of takes me away from this, looking strongly at the customer drives me nuts, right? So that's why I love
Yeah, we're pretty close with our customers. I think most customers that we have on the platform, I've been on a call with them. I really invite everyone who joins the platform, jump on a call with me. I'll show you around, give you some tips and tricks, just because we really value just getting feedback from our customers. We built a whole platform based on the experience we have, and we're still building the platform based on new experiences we're making every single day. So getting that sort of, just having a small company and having really close customers, I think is really important for our success, and also for an industry that is as small as we are in. There's not that many companies. It's very important for us to be respected, be kind to everyone else, and help make a better industry.
Yeah, I hear you. Can you spill how many roughly customers do you have right now?
I think sort of signed up businesses, we have between 300 and 400. So we're getting there. Yeah, it's every week we have more and more signups, and especially now this year, with a wave of AI tools, we see
a uptick in new merchants coming online and having new crazy products that they want to try to sell. So, yeah.
Okay, so I mean, there are some. I want to move forward, but I don't want to create chaos. So maybe I'll still park for one more minute the question about these new inspiring tools. But so what is your sales marketing process? Because two of you, and I know that you're also you're just very deeply in the community. So one of those ways to get notice is actually to attend and actually also sponsor and help the local communities, right? And so I think for sure that's the one. But is there any other way you do sales? Is it also maybe the question, behind the question is it difficult for you because you're a finance and engineering guy and it's just, a bit different role, right? Doing running marketing and sales on the company, right? And
I think that's a very good question. Before, we actually tried hiring for a marketing sales guy and sort of expand the team a little bit, but we didn't really find a good fit. And so, we do as startup founders do, we just try it ourselves and see how it goes. And so it is one of our weaker sides, I'll admit. We don't do a whole lot of outbound. We don't do an insane amount of marketing. Maybe you've seen our banners on some forums here and there. We sponsor some open source packages and like you say, it's communities just so we're present. For us, it's really important to just be present indeed, because we need to be top of mind, when someone either comes with a new product or when someone decides we need to redesign our website. We're going to kick out all of our old junk and upgrade. Then we need to be present and people need to know about us. But over the years, what's really given us the most growth is just word of mouth. We had some really good first customers and they really loved us. They spread the word. And so now most of our best customers, they come because developers know us. They know how easy it is to integrate our licensing. They know how easy it is to set everything up compared to the whole journey of duct taping together 3 or 4 systems. So we get a lot of word of mouth and sort of network effect now. And so now I think we're not really going to look hard to hire a sales guy. Who knows, maybe that'll change, but we're focusing on indies. A sales guy is not as effective as me just sharing my experiences and sharing my actual expertise with one-to-one developer to developer.
Exactly, because a lot of indie plugin companies are developers building their first plugin. So I think and I know we went to Berlin meetups, etc. I can see this clearly. So they will probably get along best with a fellow engineer. I hear you, what you say. Good. But I mean, that's so cool, that's so important, right? Have a word of mouth, actually, organic marketing. If people love you and refer you, it's just free and it's organic and it's actually I mean, what can you if the product is not there is no a fit, what else can you do? You can only boost a little bit what's already there, rather than that's so great. That's
but we have a special audience, right? We're not targeting the same audience as our merchants are, it's not a sort of a B2C thing. We're really targeting people who are in that last mile of okay, they're building something cool, but then they need to put it live, and how do we reach those? That's really been our main focus lately. And that's also why we also have a blog, with a lot of articles that are relevant to that last mile. We had a lot of articles from James Russell, who writes about marketing things, pricing, using resellers, like how do you do that? We've had a lot of articles from Sudara, more technical articles on how do you do code signing, how do you sort of prepare your plugin for actual launch. So we try to really help and share knowledge on that last mile, just so people find us.
Great, that's so
during
great.
That stage.
I mean, I'm just waving, as because this is what, why we also funded the Academy, right? Because, it was initially just a podcast, but we just learned very quickly. There is a lot of people who, the larger companies experience the same problem, but in a different way. But also a lot of startups who simply, you're either an engineer who never actually run the company, and then marketing or something, or even finance, right? So how we could, plan the budget, how you develop your product further, etc. So a lot of it become like workshops, not just by me, because there's like on your team, there's like experienced people, like a colleague from former Waves Audio product manager who's writing about hardware, and like a DSP, and a colleague who is a mastering engineer writing about the market, and sort of like a user workflows and challenges that are on the market, and it become really like some like a knowledge base for funders and also for managers of established companies who they need some like a not customized, but more like a specific industry knowledge, not something that they can, a lot of people say, if you want to think of good product management books, you can go to, I don't know, Marty Kagan, or Inspired, or maybe Lean Startup. And while they just get so much great, I always laugh that if I only could read Lean Startup before I founded my first startup, how different life could be, right? We made all mistakes, and I'm looking right now back at what we did it's just like a crazy.
It's easy to be wise about that after the fact, though, when you look back at things. I think, for me personally, building Moonbase, I built it to solve a problem we had, and I have fun just building a very cool product. I'm not super focused on the startup side of things, It's important for us that we have like a very stable company and sort of the least amount of risk that we can, because a lot of companies rely on us now. But I'm not this sort of hyperscaler sort of looking for growth at all costs. It's just, let's have a solid product and let people find us and grow organically.
That's the essential thing, like a solid product, So what's your again, without any hidden agenda, but just curious, what's as somebody who actually have a successful product, there is traction, etc. So what are as a founder, entrepreneur, what's your how to say, biggest challenging or opportunity area, something that you struggle with? And I'm not specifically talking about just a business side, like you say, marketing or sales, but even life work balance, or what's trying to get into your mind, what's what's like to
that's a good question with a lot of possible directions. That work-life balance is pretty good for me right now. I think that's something you learn over the years. How do you balance the million things that you want to do? We have a huge backlog of things that I want to do. I always get new ideas when I talk to people. So there's a lot of things I want to do. But you learn to sort of tackle that. Like we talked about, us not being sales or marketing guys at all has always been a bit of a challenge, because we're fumbling around a little bit. How do we present ourselves? Where do we advertise? How do we actually shape our messaging? And I think we've sort of learned a little bit more each year and do it better and better. But it's still a challenge, because for us it's really important to be trusted, do it sort of as professionally as we can, and just take care of everyone. I think that's one of the main challenges that we have. Just how do we convince the existing audio companies to switch over? That's a hard sell, because what we do is very sticky. So it's
that's exactly. You just marry somebody for good, right? Just a disconnect from all this. I know what you mean, especially when you are just a relatively new company. The question is obviously, will you stay? Will you be there later? So it's not only the product is not convincing, but you are making a big step, and you need to be sure that you have a, like you said, a stable partner on the other side. I'm saying this because I remember Hannes from Oxand in the podcast once mentioned, right? That was actually also a big part of the, their growth curve, that at a certain point people say, okay, there's already a two, or, so they are not going to, to disappear, and people slowly started to think about they're just here to stay, so we can count on them to be around. Even with some large companies, the problem is, I'm not sure if you saw this fear and rumor spreading around when Native Instruments went into insolvency. Everybody was just, oh, what the fuck? It's just most of the studios all around, I have here a native, the MIDI keyboard from Native Instruments, and RX is my go-to, I don't do the post-production anymore, but I mean, of course, like RX is the go-to plugin, right? For all the like dialogue editing and more. And thinking that this can disappear is just like, oh no, it's just so many thousands of euros invested, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's
a lot of people ask us about that, like what is the contingency plan, or like what can they do with it? But there will always be some risk. We try to minimize it, and I think nowadays we're getting less of that because we've been operational for a couple of years now. We're very stable. We haven't had any outages, so it's now people trust us more and more, so that helps.
And you have a finance guy as a co-founder, so.
And I have a finance guy as a co-founder who can handle all the compliance and legal bits and everything that I am not. Handle the cash flow, make sure that we're healthy and moving the right direction.
Yeah, that's a good one. But like, I mean, I asked about these challenges, and particularly I was like, slightly moving towards this like a life-work balance, because this is something I always like struggled, and especially that when you build something, when it's like a building your own product, it's just like a building, it's like a giving a child, right? And it's so hard to disconnect. I'm not sure if you're just experiencing sometimes like this kind of, okay, it's an afternoon or an evening, I have to still, do some jogging. I do, maybe like, especially when you work a lot, you need to stay healthy, right? And eat healthy and stuff. So are you able to disconnect? I mean, are you able to simply like not to think about, or you're still always like have the ideas in your head?
It used to be harder before. Now I think I'm getting better. I think now I have a very sane sort of, in the weekends, I don't answer messages. I still do a lot of coding in the weekends, but I try to not answer messages unless they're like really urgent. So try to disconnect a little bit there. And whenever, like we organize some vacation in the summer, then I get someone to take over the support and handle that. So like you say, it is important to be able to disconnect every now and then. But this is also, my hobby and my work, and this is what I really love doing. So I don't really mind doing it as much as I do.
I know what you mean. Like find what you love and let it kill you, right? That's the saying.
Exactly. Yeah,
that's the saying. That's a good one. So listen, you mentioned that there are so many creative new like companies that you found. I'm super curious, can you like name some that you like found that was so new, inspiring? Maybe you can give some shout out to somebody. I don't want to, of course, like exclude, because there are so many great products, and it's very hard to like list them all. But maybe something that drew your attention. You don't have to say if you don't want to, but I'm just curious, what do you have in mind by saying something?
But here's also the hard part, I see it from my perspective, I usually see the websites and the communication and the marketing around it. I don't often try the product so much, just because I'm not an audio guy. The few times I try, I'm like, am I hearing a difference here or not? but no. So I'm not going to name so many, but there have been a couple of developers that I both sort of like personally, because they have some really cool vibes, but also just take different approaches to it. I think what Sudara made with Melatonin, he made a really cool synthesizer thing. And the guys behind Luma with this textural engine that they made. I was their neighbor at NAMM, so I got to hear that thing a lot, and it was just always so funky and cool, and sort of what I would like to have out of a tool, basically. But yeah, there's so many. Like I said, we have hundreds of companies that are releasing on our platform, so it's hard to really dig into each one.
That's a good point. But I mean, I was surprised hearing like these volumes. Like a lot of the conversations I have behind the scenes of the podcast is actually how big is the industry. And I even recently wrote an article, what's the total addressable market, right? Is this, nobody made a full scale research on the industry. And a lot of people say, there is no, not that many companies, so is it still how to say, is it still worth building a new plugin company? That is the like rationale behind this question. And some people say it's just really like in millions. So, I mean I'm talking more right now about the like the pro audio use. Not specifically pro audio users, because this can be like a bedroom producers, etc. But people who like use some kind of mixing, mastering plugins. If you add to this all the like virtual instruments, all this kind of new AI, maybe some kind of, not necessarily like a music AI, but some kind of like a neural engines, whatever. I mean, I find this can be a cool way to make an instrument. Surprised, we are not seeing yet those kind of like let's say AI synthesizers or something. And so this can be like millions. Like I think Native Instrument wrote in the press release when they were acquired by InMusic that there's like 25 million active users. They have 25 millions. And I think Muse Group, another like a big company that owns the a lot of like a guitar, Ultimate Guitar, and this like a learning tools. It's probably even more, like also like in dozens of millions. So with this said, I'm trying to say is that it looks so saturated, but on the other hand, there is still such a space, to create new tools, and the market still grows, because with new tooling, a lot of people who didn't have like a pro audio experience, they can experience like a music. Making music with GarageBand on your Mac, or Ableton. You don't have to become like a PhD in music, right? To make a good, cool record right now.
Yeah, but I think that's the question that a lot of people are asking themselves, right? Like, can I turn this idea I have into a successful product? And there's a lot of questions. There's a lot of things that has to go right for you to make a successful product. And I have seen the last couple of months a couple of people who they're not super strong technically, but they have a really unique idea and they're able to use AI to like build a product around that. And some of them are like moderately successful. They get a lot of good feedback, and like, they are able to get their crazy ideas into the world. I've yet to see any like super successful ones there, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how saturated the market is. At the end of the day, it's all about marketing. It's all about reach. It's all about like, can you find someone who likes your taste, and can you communicate sort of that vision and sort of have some messaging that really sells? Because I think it's still, and I've seen it a couple of times this year already, people who make sort of new iterations of old products and old ideas that are just different enough, or sort of they have the reach to still make it into a commercial success. And I think that's maybe where we might be headed a little bit. Like, we see more and more producers, more and more YouTubers, more and more Instagrammers, like people who have both this, idea and knowledge, but also have an audience to connect it to. Those are usually quite successful. So if you can partner up with someone or sort of find a way to get that reach, I think you can make almost any product a commercial success.
That's a good one. So what do you work with so many funders. So what do you think their struggles? So you are almost like a researcher, right? You have like so many conversations. And again, without, there is no like a hidden agenda in this question. I'm mostly curious, right? What people mostly struggle with, so.
I think before I built Moonbase, obviously a lot of them had questions of like, how do you stitch together systems, right? Like, how do you actually run a business? Because there's a million small things that you just need to get up and running. But I think practically, especially the ones who use us, who is, live and ready to sell within a day or two, their biggest challenges now, it's all about marketing.
That's so interesting. That's so interesting.
It's all about marketing, messaging, positioning. Like, how do you showcase this product that you made? Like, how do you tell it to everyone else, and how do you get the word out? How much money do you spend on ads? How do you make those ads? Like, I think that's really one of the main
challenges that a lot of people, that's sort of holding back a lot of new developers today.
That's an interesting point. But yeah, that's a I would say surprising, because there is so, there are specialized agencies, right? Like I don't know, production expert, they have this like a marketing, let's say, branch, so RAS does the marketing for audio brands, and but I mean, getting some, interest from, I don't know, famous, YouTubers, or like some kind of, having, I don't know, Andrew Sheps talking about your plugin. It's like that's probably makes the biggest leverage, right? So making, and of making course somebody who has influence over the community interested in your product, and actually to the level that they just like willing to talk about it, like because they just simply like the idea.
But I think that's what I see a lot, like a lot of the new developers, the new plugin manufacturers that we see now, they're usually doing this on their own. They're also totally bootstrapped and just doing this as a side thing, and so they don't usually hire agencies. And you could argue that if you would just hire the right agency, you would make your money back easily. But it's also like an investment. And I think a lot of people are just unsure, because as we know, like we've said, it's a saturated market. If you don't manage to sort of stand out and sort of carve out your own spot, you're not going to sell just because you have a product. I think that was a little bit different before, when every new product was very unique. It's not really the case now. So you're really dependent on marketing actually getting through.
Yeah, that you see, I'm just like thinking now, because how to say that? I recently gave a presentation at the Music Tech Poland meetup. It's this, there's also like a Music Tech Germany. There's like this network of associations all around Europe that also help startups. And it was actually like around startups. So I was actually asked to, give a presentation about some challenges that startups have when launching products. And of course, I try to be humble, I mean, I don't, I cannot speak for my own experience, but of course, like interviewing so many people and using those and talking to, on the shows and on the meetups. And when I was just preparing to this presentation, I wanted to make some kind of like a 3-4, like a top challenges that I find when, common patterns. And one of the number one I mentioned was, I call it like a little Miss Independent, so I'll do it all by myself kind of thing. And I was just wondering, because it's not necessarily a question of money. I understand that as a startup, you usually have like a little money, and you don't, you're just trying to like do everything by yourself. But I was like, sure, I think it's not, I was trying to is it, for example, because they're just afraid that they're just hiring somebody who is not like specialized in audio and they are not going to deliver, so they're going to waste money, or they're just like they are not aware of what they don't know yet. So they simply, oh, no, we can do it. Right. And later they fail. And, I deliberately say, it's not about marketing specifically, but I saw numerous times, or like was even part of the conversation when I for example recommended some experienced out-of-funder and say, talk to this guy, he can be your mentor because he already built the company and he went through all this. And to learn later that they just rejected the help, and later, like a year later, I met them, or 2 years later, I met them. I said, "Oh fuck, man, we should have asked. Listen, we just failed. I don't know, like a hardware production, right? We made the mistake, right? We got the batch that was like all broken. We need to like find a new supplier, or we did something and it didn't work." And I was actually even at some point helping some startups here and there, occasionally, in between jobs. Yeah, but that's why I found it's just like the number one challenge. And I'm just trying to sort of stitch it with what you're saying about the marketing. What's the reason why people don't go, they are not hiring maybe some kind of fractional leader, right? So maybe you don't want to have an agency, but maybe you can get somebody who like work in the industry like for their whole life and entire life, and give them like a day or two, a week, right? To help them. I'm not sure what you think.
I think that was a bit smart, but like you say, like a lot of people are very independent. Like they want to do this all on their own. And I think they also believe in their idea. Maybe a little bit too much sometimes. We had Russ from Production Expert. He had an interview with us. We posted it on our website, and really his main sort of piece of advice is to think about marketing and sales before you build the product, because afterwards it especially with hardware, super hard to change. With software, you can, but you shouldn't go live and then have to radically change how the product feels and looks because you didn't really hit it. I think a lot of people just skip that step, like they build what they have in their mind, like the idea that they've been mulling over for the last 5 years. They build it because it must be perfect. And then they find a marketing guy to help them. And it's like, no matter how you do that marketing, it's still the same product underneath. So I think that's a challenge. So sometimes.
Nah, I got it. I mean, I had on the show, I think 2 episodes back, Amanda, who is like a product marketing person, like for her entire career, and she worked like for Roland and like a UA and all around the place, and she helps startups from time to time. So she said, that. To her surprise, startups sometimes don't even grasp this, like a very basic, like a marketing concepts, like, like a marketing funnel, what it is, right? That you, direct people through, like from the interest to a certain point that they, I don't know, take a trial or, convert them into the customers at the end, So it's like a lot to do in this space. But yeah, like you say, that people are just like so eager, and maybe they want to simply like a, this like their passion boils so long in their head that they want to give some birth, to some product quickly, just to later learn that there are other components of this picture than just having a tool ready. Yeah. On the other hand, some people told me also that, in this specific industry, you still need to have a good DSP, so like talking about Oaksand, right? They just like it's obviously like a 10 years old company, so it was like a different times back then. But I mean, what I'm trying to say, that DSP still matters, right? So if you're, of course, if you make a plugin, we don't promise, some kind of groundbreaking, results, but you're just, I don't know, innovating on the level of the interface, and you're just doing something similar, but I don't know, with some cool new, interface. That's already an innovation, right? But I mean, promising something which, doesn't sound like this, you will very quickly get people who are, the audio users can be. They're just big fans, but on the other hand, they're just like, oh no, it's just like, it doesn't sound like this.
Yeah. But I think it's very hard to compete. Like if you think like, okay, I'm going to make a product that's technically better than something already out there, it has to be a lot better to knock the existing one off the throne. And I think that's very hard to do nowadays. Like competing with Oak Sound when they already have such a high quality bar, I think it's not even worth trying. I think you're way better off finding your own twist, your own taste, like going that way, because that's also like, we talk now about like, it's very hard to make a commercially viable product if you don't think about marketing, but we do have quite some merchants who make very commercially viable products and don't think about marketing, just because they have the taste, they have they have something unique that they can bring into it, and they're able to sort of wrap it all up. They have messaging, vision, branding, a good product. It doesn't need to be the best product, but a good product that sort of feels right. It can still work. So it's very hard that there's like no one answer to this. It's like, it really depends. And most of it comes from whoever creates it. And sometimes it's just not good enough. Sometimes you need external help, and sometimes you can do it on your own. And that's hard to reason about sometimes.
Yeah, I know what you mean. But listen, that's exactly, sometimes, especially nowadays with in AI era, people say, hey, it's not, like a product managers are dead. And I was like a product owner, product manager my entire career. And, I always like a laugh, because usually one person in the company, I mean, obviously in the larger companies, but I mean, I can translate it also very easily to the startup world, where the first founder and CEO is really like the first product manager of the company, who, ties all these pieces together, right? So what is the pricing is right, the product is right. Do we actually solve the real problem? Or I don't know, some creative problem, maybe, doesn't have to be like a workflow problem, right? Is the marketing right? Is the branding? It's just like a, and finance, right? Do we actually have the like a cost and revenue, so we can actually make some kind of profit and save some money, and like that's all the things that product managers usually do. So that's why we're like teaching a lot of this, like, and actually putting together a course like introduction to product management, because I think this is something that can help funders a lot, because this is like how to say, one skill that put together all this, like how can you make a successful audio product, right? Knowing a little bit about science, marketing, and finance, and engineering, right? Understanding what your engineers talk what they talk to you about, and making the right calls, like a priority, prioritize features based on what users say, right? And not always following what user says, to the letter, right? So the feature requests, it's not like the necessarily next feature in your backlog, right? That's a good point. So you see, question about the prioritization and roadmap. So you have, you have already like a lot of customers, and I'm sure that you get a lot of questions and requests, and some kind of like a wish list is like a huge. So how do you what's your secret sauce of how do you prioritize and turn those things into features, and how do you decide what not to build? I'm curious.
Yeah, that's a hard one, and I think this also boils down to I think we do a mix of we want to listen to our customers, and that's why we have a totally open roadmap where people can actually go in and request more features. They can vote for what they think is important. So we try to use that to guide us. What should we build next? But of course, we also have a lot of times where we have some ideas that we think are very unique that will help a lot of people without them realizing it. And we will push through some of those sometimes. I don't have an example off the top of my head, but yeah, right now we're just working on sort of basic features. Like now we're working on marketing tools. So we want to take sort of email marketing in-house for those who wish to simplify their stack. Because now, we still rely on external email newsletter platforms like MailChimp and stuff like that. But we just want to take it in-house because it's the one missing link in our triangle of systems that we need. So if we can also do that right from Moonbase, I think that's going to help a lot of people, and we can make some really, really unique things there. But prioritizing that, it's hard. It's always a balance of what does our users want to see, what do we need, both for sort of the stability of the platform, but also what's fun, what's cool to have in the platform. For me, Moonbase is still a very fun thing to work on, so it's important that I have some nice things to build. And then, we do dismiss some feature requests here and there if it just doesn't fit or if there's not enough demand for it. And some of those things are on the edge, where we have had sort of recurring requests for can't we also provide customer support tools, so that they don't have to have another system for that. And I'm yes, that would be nice, but it's also not our core area. And
it's such a big area.
Yeah. So we'll see. It depends on how much capacity we'll have over the next years, but it's a hard one.
Yeah, but I believe yes, that most of the companies who build products, I'm not sure, but I guess they use Jira, and there is, I think, free Jira service desk included, right? And Jira portal, So
yeah, that could be. I usually tell everyone to just start with an email inbox. And that's usually fine for the first year or two, and then graduate to a ticketing system when you get there. And it's usually not so expensive, and it's usually
Jira service desk is free. I think it's free for years until you have a big customer base. It can be free. Yeah, that's a good point. So for the end, would you mind? We remember talking about next MIDI. Some a nice case study of, and I'm deliberately asking you to explain, because I don't want to miscommunicate, but that's some nice customer success story, what customers can experience by
I think
with you.
I think for us, like the tools that we have built is tools that you can duct tape together yourself. Like I said, it's a little bit painful, but having the tools that we like to have, especially, we have the Next MIDI case study on our website where they launched their new Divismate 2, and they sort of made an upgrade price for all their existing customers because, it is after all, the next version of the product. It's nice if you can give your existing customers a small discount just to sort of upgrade to the next version. And when they did that, we saw, I think, over 30% of their sales was using that discount. So they managed to convert a lot of their existing customers, sort of keep them going and support their next product. And this really sort of fits in with what we want to do, like build a fan base that is loyal to you so that they will support you and sort of spread the word. And so having tools in place to offer this kind of pricing, for us, that's really important and something we see a lot of success with a lot of different companies, because we've chatted about it a bit before, but who is the typical plugin buyer, like who is the typical customer you have in this industry? And you have this pro segment, of course, but the hobby segment just dwarfs it entirely. Like it's way more hobbyists. There's a lot of collectors that just want to follow the developers that they like, like buy into the trends, buy into the tastes, and facilitating that through, pricing models that make them feel rewarded for supporting you, I think is really important. I think that's what we see a lot of success with and what we try to push. And also what is like the reason we built Moonbase, it's super hard to do these things if you do off-the-shelf solutions where you have to, hack stuff to work.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and what I'm trying to say is that it's so refreshing actually to see. I mean, I'm speaking to a lot of funders, but more of them, I'm doing like, I don't know, plugins, etc. So seeing, I mean, the audio industry from a little bit different angle, it's also like a super cool, because we need also like infrastructure, and it's not about always like the success of the products, and doesn't necessarily always mean you have a superior product, right? But I mean, running the business, it's like way more than just this. Listen, I mean, we'll be seeing each other in September, right? I mean, just maybe for the listeners, the next Audio Product Jam, so the meetup will be on September 10th in Stockholm, in the headquarters of XLN Audio, who is, so great to host us. And if Sana listens or is watching, saying hi. And like I mentioned, Moonbase is a kind sponsor of this event. So we'll meet with the Swedish, I hope not only Swedish, I know there will be people coming from Finland and Denmark, but I mean the audio community, software and hardware companies as well, and some of the like renowned brands like Softube, for example, will be there too presenting. So there will be more information soon, but again, thank you so much, man. And we'll obviously be able to drink a beer and talk a little bit more about that.
Thanks for having me.
My pleasure, man. And see you soon, right?
Yes. Till next time.
Thank you for listening to this episode. I hope you liked it. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and of course on our YouTube channel. Make sure to subscribe to it and hit the bell, because we publish a lot of interesting videos there, not just the episodes. You can also become a supporter and get premium content like additional reading, unpublished videos on our Buy Me a Coffee page, linked in the description of this episode. See you in the next one. Yo.